Hello, my name is Jalul and I'm a systems engineer here at LiveAction. Today I'll be walking you through LiveNX solution and some of the use cases. So when you first log into LiveNX, you have some great dashboards that can help you track the performance of the network, the utilization, bandwidth information. On the top left corner, we have the top sites by WAN utilization, so we could really easily understand the top sites. You also have a map view showing all the different sites that we're monitoring within LiveNX, and you notice we have some amber and green sites. Amber is the way LiveNX will tell you there's performance problems, and we'll drill down to this data here in a little bit. You also have other widgets, and another one is the overall status, and this is one of the very powerful ones because you can see the different sites, the devices, the applications, and the cool thing about these widgets is you can always drill down. So basically, we're looking at the different sites. We see three reporting critical, seven warnings, and then five good. And let's say I want to find out more about the warning ones that can basically drill down. And LiveNX will take us to another dashboard that will show us the sites and then the conditions of the site. So it's loading the topology here. And now we're looking at the different sites that are having issues here. I have San Jose, Austin, London, and let's say Seattle is one of my critical sites. I can click on the site and LiveNX will tell us exactly what's happening within the site. It looks like we're having quality of service drops. And then from here, I can see more details. So if I click on site details, LiveNX will take us to the site view where it will basically show the WAN DSCP inbound, the WAN DSCP outbound. So I noticed that I have 60% of best effort. Also AF41, CS6 outbound traffic. I have most of my traffic is best effort. I also have other DSCP markings like AF41, EF, and then you can look at the applications, inbound applications, the outbound applications, and down to the source IPs and the destination IPs. And then on the right here, you have a nice topology showing how the sites is connected to the MPLS service provider here, for example. And then you can look at the different devices within the site. So this is a demo environment. We only have one device. Let's say it was a production environment. It will basically show all the different devices that you're monitoring within this site. And here we're looking at the device name, CPU utilization, memory utilization. We have some congestion drops and then other alerts. And then from here, I can switch to the interfaces and look at the interfaces and the health of the interfaces, the WAN applications also. So let's say I'm troubleshooting an application problem. I can basically switch to the WAN application and notice that my video is reporting jitter, and then I'm also seeing that my VoIP is having packet loss problems. And let's say VoIP is one of my critical applications. I can drill down and look at the DSCP inbound, DSCP outbound. I noticed that we have best effort. All the traffic coming into the site is best effort. The traffic leaving the site is EF, so we know that something is causing that DSCP to change on the way back to the site. And then also the WAN applications inbound, and then the WAN applications outbound. So basically the bandwidth utilization for that VoIP application inbound, outbound, and then down to the source IPs and the destination IPs. And then on the right here, again, you have this topology showing the path that VoIP is taking. And then let's say when I drill down into the flows, I can click on one of the flows and we're seeing packet loss, about 12% of packet loss. I can click on that and LiveNX basically will show us a path view of that VoIP application. So we can track it end to end through the network and look at the performance hop by hop for this VoIP application. Here is my data center device. I see that the data center device is green, and it's the VoIP traffic is actually traversing the MPLS cloud. And then after the MPLS cloud, we're seeing some performance issues. So we see a red line leaving the MPLS. And then also the Seattle device is showing up amber. That means we're having congestion or quality of service drops. And then on the bottom here, we have the performance data. So I see that the data center device is doing okay. The Seattle device is having 12% of packet loss. Yeah, so this is really one of the workflows that your knock team will be doing to basically get to the problems a lot easier. So starting from the really the dashboard here, and then drilling down into the site and to the device, to the interface, to the application, and then following the application end to end through the network. And then we'll also show you how you can troubleshoot this problem using the engineering interface. So what I'm showing you right now is really the uh, the web UI, or the management interface level, but we also have the engineer interface that can help you troubleshoot problems like the one I'm showing on the screen. And then also within the web UI, you have other dashboards. This is the WAN dashboard. So when you think about the WAN, you think about the sites, the applications, the service providers. So we break that down for you. So we basically show the site utilization, the application bandwidth, the service provider bandwidth, and this is a great dashboard for SD-WAN day zero monitoring. So let's say you're deploying SD-WAN and you pick up your pilot sites. This could be a great dashboard that can show the top sites, and from here you can start picking up your pilot sites for your SD-WAN deployment. Also within LiveNX, you have different workflows. To get to these workflows is you click on this menu button and then you go to the stories, and then you have four different ones. You have the WAN interface capacity that I'm showing on my screen, and then you also have another really cool one is a site-to-site analysis story, as well as the security flow analysis and the device inventory, where we keep all the information for the devices that we're monitoring. Basically, here we're looking at the WAN interface capacity, and then this is a demo environment. We're not seeing any bandwidth changes for the interfaces that we're monitoring because the data is the same. But if it was a production environment, it will be able to track bandwidth changes for your WAN interfaces, for example. And another cool thing about this workflow, let's say you notice that one of the interfaces is using more bandwidth, you can always drill down and get to the reports that will help you understand why the interface is using more bandwidth. So that interface bandwidth, and inbound, outbound, and then the interface errors, interface utilization, class drops, application. So which application is consuming most of that bandwidth, inbound, outbound, and then DSCP information, inbound, outbound, and then down to the users, all the source IPs and the destination IPs. Also, the other workflow is the site-to-site analysis, being able to track the utilization, bandwidth, between sites. And let's say you're troubleshooting a problem between Tokyo and Sydney, for example, we can drill down and basically display all the applications flowing between the two sites. So here I'm looking at all the traffic going from Sydney to Tokyo, and I see the application name. I have Citrix, I have RTP audio. I'm also looking at the DSCP information for each application, and then the path or the service provider that the application is taking, and then lastly the status of the application. I see normal and I see critical. If I have over RTP, for example, I could see that all the traffic taking the MPLS is critical. The traffic taking the internet path is normal, and I also see that I have two different DSCP markings. I have best effort and I have EF. And what I could do with this data, I could play it. So let's say I want to monitor the path changes or DSCP changes for the last hour, 6 hours, one day, or custom date. I can always select a time and basically replay all the path changes for this traffic between Tokyo and Sydney. And then also the other workflow is the security flow analysis. And because we keep that data raw and we don't average it or aggregate it, we can basically help you use that data for security monitoring. So let's say you notice there was a malicious application or IP on the network. We can filter down into that IP or application, and we can track the conversation. So we track the first switch, the last switch, so we know how long the conversation was going for. So it's really great report to be able to help you monitor malicious activities on a network. And then also within LiveNX, you have great reports. Really to simplify the reporting, we have these templates that can help you track specific data on the network. So let's say you have voice problems and you want to validate quality of service and basically verify the health of your voice traffic. We have the voice story that will have all the reports to help you understand the DSCP. So we have the DSCP report for your voice traffic. So I can see about 70 or 80% of my voice traffic is marked EF. The rest is best effort, AF41 and CS3. And then you can also track this by site. So I can see which sites are marking traffic correctly, which ones are not. Also by application name. So I see the application name, the site name, and then notice that Los Angeles is not marking VoIP traffic, so I can really easily track those sites that are not marking my traffic correctly. Also, quality of service drops within your classes, and then your jitter and loss reports. All right, and then also you have the ability to create advanced templates. So let's say you want to email specific data to the management or maybe someone on the network. You can create advanced reports or a stacked report and pick up all the data you want. So for my example here, I'm actually looking at the top applications performance, and I also added jitter loss report, interface bandwidth, top conversations, and then IPs and ports. And what I can do, I can actually create a template that I can save and basically schedule or use for reporting. So basically here I have the top applications performance. So you can look at the health of my applications, track application delay versus network delay. Also jitter and loss reports for my voice and video traffic, interface bandwidth, and then top conversations, and lastly the IPs and ports report. So I can really easily pick up some really specific data that I can share with others. And then lastly here, just regarding the integrations. So LiveNX can integrate with APKM, ServiceNow for alerting, Cisco ICE for user identification, and then Cisco SD-WAN. So let's say deploying SD-WAN, we can basically discover your SD-WAN devices and make the SD-WAN deployment a lot easier. And then let's say you just deployed SD-WAN. LiveNX is really one of the recommended solutions for SD-WAN monitoring. And this, after you discover your SD-WAN environment using LiveNX, LiveNX will basically build a topology that will show you the health of your SD-WAN environment. So you can see I'm looking at the top sites by jitter, by loss, and by delay, and then I can track the performance between my sites. So let's say I'm seeing problems between London and Texas, for example. I can drill down, and this basically will take us to the Sankey diagram that will show us the applications, the DSCP, the service provider, and then the SLAs. So here I have the application name, the DSCP, the service provider, and then the status. You also have other cool things you can do within the SD-WAN monitoring. So you have a topology basically that will show performance between the sites. So let's say you're having problems between two specific sites. I can basically display this data for a day or last hour and track the performance. So here we're looking at the three different sites. I have Texas, London, and New York, and I noticed that between London and Texas, we're seeing an amber line. Amber means a problem, and I noticed that my voice and video SLAs are having problem. So here, what I can do, I can actually drill down, and LiveNX basically will open up a report for us that will help us track how much jitter, loss, and delay we have between those different sites. So again, really the idea here is just being able to start high level from the dashboard and get to the data that can help you troubleshoot a lot easier. Okay, so what I've been showing you really is the web UI and how you can start high level and then drill down and get to the reports and the data. And then we also have the engineering console. So the cool thing about the engineering console is you'll be able to build a mental model of the network engineer. So on my screen, we notice we have some circles. They have an MPLS cloud between these circles. I have my IP phones or end users here. And you notice here, if I zoom into one of these circles, LiveNX will show us the interfaces. So a circle will be a device that you add to LiveNX. To add a device is very simple. You just need the IP address of the device, SNMP community string for read-only access. And then let's say you want to push quality of service configs or NetFlow configs or IPSLA tests to specific devices on a network. We'll just need the SSH or telnet credentials to those devices. So in my screen, we're looking at this router here, and we see the interfaces and also the bandwidth statement. So I can see the bandwidth utilization on the interfaces, the input bandwidth, the output bandwidth. If I hover over the interface, LiveNX will tell me more. So I see the IP address, the name of the interface, if I have any ACLs, and also the bandwidth information. You notice also we have green and amber, and again, amber is the way LiveNX will tell you there is a performance problem. And here, if I hover over the interface, LiveNX basically will tell us if we have congestion or if it's a quality of service problem. We'll be able to hover over it and see exactly what's going on within the interface. All right, and then as far as the NetFlow or flow tab here, so on the top you have these different tabs. You have quality of service tab, you have flow, routing, IPSLA, and LAN. And the cool thing about these tabs is every time you switch to a new tab, just like switching to a brand new tool. So let's say you want to monitor quality of service in your network. We have an audit report that can help you track how many quality of service policies you have on the network or how many devices have quality of service on them. And then also the health of those policies. Do you have drops? Do you have mismatch statement? So basically, you have the main tab that will show the devices that we're monitoring, about 16, and we have 13 with quality of service enabled, and then we see that we have 9 with quality of service drops. And then I can go to the issues and see exactly which device is having drops. If I have mismatch classes, I can basically track all that here. And as far as the NetFlow data, the unique thing about LiveNX is we take NetFlow data and then we stitch it across the network, and we can show you how applications are flowing through the network, the health of those applications, path of the application. So it's really unique way of doing NetFlow monitoring. And here you notice when I refresh the topology, LiveNX actually is showing us all the traffic that's traversing the network right now. And then another cool thing is you can always go back in time. So let's say Monday at 9:52 p.m. I want to go back in time and basically replay all the traffic that was traversing my network. I can always go back in time. And then you also have other tabs here. So the routing will be able to help you track routing loops, asymmetric routing. So let's say you want to track a route between two different IPs. I can select source destination IP, and LiveNX basically would show us the route between those two IPs. And then IPSLA is here too. So let's say you have IPSLA on the network. As soon as you deploy LiveNX and add devices to LiveNX that have IPSLA enabled, we'll be able to discover those tests and show them on the topology. And then from here, you can start running reports and tracking the health of your different links here. And then the LAN tab is really where we start monitoring layer 2 information. So let's say you have a VLAN that you want to track through the network, maybe span entry, layer 2 quality of service. We can do that within the LAN tab. But I'm going to get started here with the flow tab, and I'm just going to show you some of the advanced monitoring and troubleshooting that we can do within the flow, and then we'll go over the other tabs. But you notice here we have, again, the path of the applications. If we look at the legend, we have best effort traffic. I have some, EF traffic. You have these filters up here that can help you get to the data you want a lot easier. So you have all flow types. So LiveNX is a flow collector, and it can collect flow from any device that can export flow. Another unique thing about LiveNX is it can ingest MediaNet and AVC from Cisco devices. And MediaNet is a performance agent built into the Cisco device that can help you track packet loss and jitter within your voice and video traffic. AVC is also a performance agent built into the Cisco device that can help you track TCP health. So it's you have a TCP application that's running slow. You can use AVC to track the performance. Is it the network that's causing it? Is it the application? Is it the server? Is it something else? So some really cool flow data that we get from Cisco devices. And then also as far as the DVR here, so you have the ability to go back in time. Let's say Monday or 2 weeks ago, you wanted to play all the traffic. You can always go back in time. You can select the polling interval. So let's say you want to look at the current traffic, or maybe you want to look at the last hour polling interval, last 30 minute, 5 minute, last 24 hours. You can always do that. You also have these filters that can help you get to the data you want really quickly. So let's say you have voice performance issues or Skype issues. We have these Skype filter built into LiveNX. Let's say you have specific traffic and you don't find a filter for it here. You can always build custom filters for your specific traffic, and then we can also monitor the top 10, top 200 conversations. The bottom 50, the bottom 200, and then the last filter is more like a troubleshooting filter. So let's say you're troubleshooting a voice problem. Look at this data by DSCP. I can apply a DSCP and track my voice and video using that DSCP. We can also track it using a performance filter. So when I apply the performance filter, we'll see green and red. So green will be good, red will be a problem. And then on the top of the filters, you also have the search here. So what we call this is Google search for your flow, so you can ask LiveNX questions. So let's say a user was having a problem on the port 19420. I can basically type in the port number on the search here, and LiveNX basically will just show us the traffic that was going through that port. And then let's say I want to display this using a DSCP. Let's say I'm troubleshooting a voice problem. I could display it by DSCP and basically track the DSCP markings through the network. So I have red line leaving my laptop here. So red is EF, and then blue is best effort. So we see two different colors, and we know that there is a DSCP markings within this path here. So here, what I can do is I can actually track it through the topology. I noticed that he's leaving red, going through the Seattle device, going through the MPLS, going to the data center. Coming back from the data center, we're still seeing the red line. But when we get to the service provider, we see that we're actually seeing the blue line leaving the MPLS cloud. So the blue here is best effort. And you can always drill down. So what I've been showing you is really the topology view and how you track conversations through the network. And then you also have this table view. So the table view basically will show you the details of the traffic. So the protocol, source IP, destination IP, the source port, destination port, the application name, the DSCP, the bandwidth. So this is all the net flow data that we know, but here is the cool stuff. So MediaNet is really when you take the monitoring to the next level. So now we're seeing the basic net flow information, so the application name, DSCP, but MediaNet also gives us performance data like packet loss, jitter, and then notice that this user is having 12% of packet loss. And what I can do, I can double click on that one conversation, and LiveNX basically will show us the path of that conversation through the network. And here is a table. So the table basically contains basic net flow data, SNMP data, and the performance data, which is MediaNet. So here I have the Seattle device is showing up red because we're seeing packet loss. They see the application name, the CPU, the interfaces in line with the conversation, the jitter, packet loss, DSCP. We're also seeing best effort here. The other device is all green because we're not seeing any performance problems. And what I can do, I can actually take this and show it through my topology. And you notice here we're actually starting green from the data center. And when we get to the service provider, we turn red. And now this basically doesn't really stop here because you can always use LiveNX to troubleshoot. So we notice that this is actually passing through an Amber interface, and Amber again is a problem. And so what I can do here, I can double click on the Amber interface and switch the quality of service. And now LiveNX will be able to show us the applications traversing or leaving the interface. I see RTP, I have SIP, Facebook. And down here, we're actually looking at the quality of service information. So I see my voice and video classes are highlighted in amber. That means we're dropping traffic. And what I can do here, I can right click on the class and display drops. I can see how much drops I have. And the powerful thing here, I can right click on the classes and adjust the output QoS. So now LiveNX is loading the device configuration, and here is the shaping and queuing policy, and we can see all the different classes within the policy, the class name, the queue settings, the reserve bandwidth. Down here, we're actually looking at the bandwidth information, and I see that my voice is using 18%. I have 26% available. And what I can do, I can change that directly from here. And let's say I want to make it 26. I can do that from this GUI. And every time you make a change, LiveNX will create a CLI that you can push to the devices. And you notice that we're not ripping and replacing the policy. This is more like a CCIE level troubleshooting that LiveNX is doing for us. And if this is fine, you can actually save it directly to the device. But we're not going to save it. This is just a demo environment. Just wanted to show you how you can basically use the flow data or the performance flows to basically track a specific application end to end through the network. And as far as the quality of service tab here, so you notice that every time I switch to a new tab, I start seeing new data. So let's say if I double click on one of the devices and switch to the flow, LiveNX basically will show us the live data that's traversing the device. So think of this more like a live net flow report. So the source IPs, the destination IP. So basically all the traffic flowing through this device, and I can always create filters. Let's say I have Outlook. I want to apply Outlook to the search. I can right click and apply it to the search, and LiveNX will basically show us only Outlook traffic. And also I can look at a MediaNet or AVC flows. Let's say I'm having voice and video problems. I can switch to MediaNet and track packet loss, jitter. Let's say I'm troubleshooting an application performance issue. I can basically switch to AVC and track application delay, network delay, and you also have a DVR built in. So uh, because LiveNX doesn't aggregate or average the data, so you can basically go back in time and replay all the traffic that was traversing one of the devices on the network. So let's say this is a core device and you want to replay all the traffic that was traversing this device. You can go back in time and replay all the NetFlow data. And again, when I switch to the QoS tab here, we'll start seeing QoS information. So here I see the interfaces and the policies they have on the interfaces. They have a shaping policy on the output direction. I have a set DSCP on the input direction. And let's say you want to make changes to these policies. I can always right click on the interface, go to manage quality of service. And this is the GUI showing basically how quality of service is set up on this device. I can see I have queuing, set DSCP, shaping policy. And let's say when I edit some of my classes, maybe I want to add new match statement to this class, I can basically use a DSCP or maybe an ACL name and start adding all my ACLs to this. Let's say you just added Skype and you want to start marking it correctly. I can create a Skype ACL and add it to the match really easily. I can also use nbar to do my match statement. So let's say if you have a specific application that you want to add to the match, you can use nbar to add it to the match here. And then you can also do other advanced QoS configs like marking, queuing, policing, shaping. And then as soon as the policy is ready, you can actually select the policy and then deploy it or push it to multiple devices at the same time. So let's say you have the same policy running on another 100 device on the network. I can select all those devices and update the policy within those devices very easily. Okay, and let's say you don't have quality of service today and you're thinking of deploying quality of service. We're a Cisco partner. We have best practices built into LiveNX, and you can use these templates to deploy quality of service. And they range all the way from a 12 class policy down to a 3 class policy. And let's say you go through these policies and you do see one that works for your network. I can select the policy, hit next, adjust the shaping bandwidth, hit next. Here's the policy details, and then you can always preview the CLI or review the configs before you push any configs to the device. So let's say I want to make changes to this, you can make changes to it. Or if this looks fine, you can actually hit next, and LiveNX will push that to the interface for you. Okay, and then as far as the other tabs here, so you have the routing tab. So the routing tab basically will help you track routing tables. So let's say you want to look at all the basically how the routes are set up for a specific destination. I can select the destination and show all the routes. I can also select the source destination IP and then track the route to between those two IPs. I can also show different protocols. So let's say you just want to focus on static or EIGRP, for example. I could do that. And I have also my adjacency table, so I can show all the neighbors and then the protocols. And then if I double click on one of the devices, LiveNX will be able to show us the routing table for that device. And also, as far as the IPSLA, so when you deploy LiveNX, you will discover the IPSLA tests that you have on your network, and it will display them on the map here. So you can see these lines are IPSLA tests, and I can click on the test and right-click and run the report and track the health of this link. So let's say I would look at latency, jitter, loss for that specific link. I could do it, and I could do this for the last hour, 6 hours, 1 day, or a custom date. You can always create a quick test. So let's say I want to create a quick test between one of the devices. I can select the device name, the test type, the interface for that device. And then for my destination IP, I can click anywhere on my topology. So let's say I want to add this interface to the test. I can click on it and LiveNX will generate the IP for me, and then I can save it directly to my device. You can always create advanced tests. So let's say I want to deploy more advanced tests. I can go and select the test and then give it a name. And let's say I want to do a jitter test. I can select the DSCP for my jitter test. I can select the topology, select the source and destinations, and then schedule it, and basically do all the advanced IPSLA configs using this GUI. And then once you deploy the test, we also have the status GUI that will show you the health of the test. So any errors, if they disconnect or timeout, we'll be able to see those tests here. All right, and then also the LAN tab is really the tab where you start monitoring layer 2 information. So let's say you have a campus network and then you want to track VLANs going through the network. I can basically select the VLAN number and track it through the network. I can also show spanning tree and look at root bridge, forwarding ports, blocking ports. If I double click on one of the switches, I'll be able to see all the details for that switch. So the interface, the VLANs, the input bandwidth, the access ports information, and also layer 2 quality of service. So let's say you want to look at the trust on the interfaces. I can basically monitor all the interfaces and see if I have trust on the interfaces set up. Okay, and all the features I showed you today, so you can set up alerts so you don't have to keep monitoring the topology or the dashboard. So LiveNX will send you an alert every time you have performance issues. So it could be quality of service problem or jitter or network latency. You can set up these alerts, and you have the ability to send these alerts to your email or ServiceNow or syslog, and LiveNX basically will send you those alerts. And then the cool thing about these alerts is when you get them, you can basically open the alert window here, and then you can right click on the alert and open up a report directly from the alert window here. So it's basically help you troubleshoot problems a lot faster. Okay. All right, so as far as the SD-WAN monitoring, it kind of showed you the day 0, day 1, day 2 monitoring within the web UI. Also within the engineer interface here, you have the ability to track path changes. So this is an SD-WAN environment that we're looking at. They have the iNet and the MPLS links between my sites. And let's say I'm using SD-WAN to protect my voice traffic, for example, of my critical traffic. I can create a filter for that critical traffic that I'm monitoring, and LiveNX basically will show us the path of the traffic. So I'm looking at the IWAN voice EF filter here, and I noticed that my traffic is taking the iNet but my primary path is the MPLS. So maybe, something happened on the MPLS, and SD-WAN actually moved all that traffic to the iNet. So let's find out. So we have a dashboard here. So the dashboard is a great place to be able to monitor the top 10 activities of the network. So you have the system one that will display the top 10 CPU, top 10 memory usage, top 10 interfaces, top applications, quality of service drops, top talkers within the flow. So top source IPs, destination IPs, IPSLA, and overall health of IPSLA, and then the WAN one. So the WAN one is really the dashboard for your SD-WAN monitoring. So you have we're looking at the Tokyo and Sydney sites, and we're seeing some alerts between the sites. And what I can do here, I can actually double click on the blue bar, and this basically will show us the amount of loss that we're having between the sites. So I've seen the source site, the destination site, and then also we'll notice that we had some loss around 9:30 and or 9:35 here, and ended around 9:40, came back around 10:10. And what I can do, the next question is really here, which service provider is causing this problem? So you can switch to the alerts by service provider, and I can clearly see that the MPLS is having problems. And the next question is really which application is being affected. So I can switch to the alerts by app group, and then I can clearly see that my EF, voice EF, is having problems. And then the problem started around 10:05, and it went all the way to probably 10:30. That's why we see all that traffic taking the iNet path. But let's say around 9:50 we didn't have any problems. So let's find out if the traffic was actually taking the MPLS path. So I come back to my topology and then say 9:50 or 9:52, hit OK, hit refresh, and now we should be able to see that EF traffic taking the MPLS, and there is all my EF traffic taking the MPLS. So IWAN is actually working correctly, and after we started having loss on the MPLS, it took all that traffic and moved it to the iNet. Okay, thank you very much for watching. This was just a quick overview showing you some of the use cases of LiveNX. Thank you.